On three,
Welcome.
two, one.
Wait. Sorry. The whole Wayne's World thing.
Yeah.
Full. Welcome to Splunk Talk, a Splunk podcast that's all about Splunk and no junk. I'm your host, Birch.
And I'm Hal.
And in the producer's corner, we don't have Jeremy.
Yeah, Jeremy's not here today, so it's like Jeremy's asleep. Let's do a wild and crazy thing. So we're trying live streaming without Jeremy.
Yeah.
We'll see.
And this is season 2, episode 4?
3, 4?
3 or 4?
It's a short one.
Yeah. And
let's call it episode 4.
Episode 4, A New Hope. Sure.
Yeah, that's good.
And soon we're going to be joined by Jason Hupka. But before we get into that, let's selfishly talk to each other.
I like that idea. So what do you think about the whole live streaming concept? Is this your first time?
I think this might be my first time.
Okay.
And I do like...
But you're,
Mike,
stranger to the stage.
I'm no stranger to the stage.
So.
But the digital stage,
mm-hmm.
perhaps. I like Mike's comment in the live stream. Hey guys, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. I think that's
right
the tone he
there.
Was
we got to point
yeah.
to where it is. There's the like button.
Yeah.
I am totally not going to go and create real buttons in the video like that.
I like the idea. Like, no, we'll just point. I'll just point to it where it is on the screen, and then like in a year, Google will change the YouTube layout, and it'll be like, why is he pointing to the unsubscribe button or the flag this for adult content button?
But yeah, it's fine. I mean, the point here is that we're just hanging out and talking about cool things related to Splunk in some vague fashion.
Yeah, vague fashion.
Yeah. So what have you been up to lately?
Vague. By the way, vague fashion, I believe is what the name of my style is called.
Yeah.
I wear vague fashion.
I wear Merrells.
Oh, you do?
Mm-hmm. Are you familiar with them?
Just Lynch.
No, this would be a brand of shoes.
I meant financial services.
Yeah, I was talking about shoes.
Okay.
So, question.
Keds?
No, it's been a while.
Okay.
I mean, I'm open to it if there's some particular cool
if someone were to send us Keds,
there we go.
Is open to it.
It's on my wish list, guys.
Yeah.
No, for real though. What have you been up to lately?
Oh, what have I been up to? Doing a lot of publishing content over on our Answers channel.
Yeah.
Working with my team to get a lot of stuff from the Essentials apps over there.
Awesome.
And I just noticed Jason just joined us.
We have a guest, Jason. Yes.
We have a guest.
Well, we'll get to him in just a second. Hold, please. We see you there. It's lovely. Thank you for turning the camera on.
Quiet down, Jason.
We will pivot to Jason momentarily. How about that?
Yeah.
So,
how about you? How are you doing?
Busy, but it's starting to slack down. Lower down. In intensity. Going into the holiday season. So, it's basically I'm a sales engineer. It's a lot of right now training. Thinking about like because you have a little bit of downtime, you can put some training stuff in that you've been trying to get done. Basically that's most of what I've been doing between customer calls.
And by training, you're talking about your Jedi training.
A lot too. Yes, I am on the train. I did print 3D print a baby Yoda. I should have brought it with me and put it on camera, but it's do
you have a baby papoose or a baby hovering egg?
No, I've not actually. Okay, so all I've watched is the opening scene of The Mandalorian at this point. So I don't even know what I'm talking about.
No.
I'm excited about it, but my wife is not.
The Mandalorian, Jason was the person who made sure that I was watching it.
Really?
So
okay.
That probably is a pretty good segue for us to bring him in.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, and let's make sure that I want to watch it. You got to keep the pressure on because I don't watch a whole lot of TV. So with that, Hey Jason, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I am excellent.
Excellent. Yeah, you definitely should watch The Mandalorian. I've really enjoyed it. I love the pacing of it and all of the cinematography and the shots. There's some really good stuff in there.
So I have a question.
Yes.
So the theme that I got from the opening scene, which I'm sure you're familiar with, I've watched it like 3 times already. And it was a bit of Space Cowboy.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved Firefly. So is someone that loved Firefly going to see any similarities at all? Anything that they're going to look at and say, "Oh, okay, I'm glad to be watching this show."
So I have to admit I've never seen Firefly. I've seen some of the movie.
All right, next.
Okay, so
Sorry,
I can answer this
today.
question. Yes, the answer is yes. Like there was definitely more than one moment while watching The Mandalorian where I was like, "Wow, they really went back to Lucas's vision of this basically being a space western."
And space westerns were never really fully explored. Like westerns had their time. They're not gone, but they're not as big as they were. And space westerns could have filled a gap there. And Star Wars, you could argue whether or not he fulfilled it or not, whatever. But
there's one critical problem with a space western.
What's that?
I'm glad you asked. The one critical problem with a space western is that you can never duel at high noon because you're in space.
Oh yes,
interesting.
That's true.
Yeah,
but I do agree that it definitely has that space western feel to it.
Okay.
The pacing, if you watch some of the older Clint Eastwood movies,
mm-hmm.
The Man with No Name series, I mean, it has that type of pacing, that moral ambiguity in the main character. It's really good.
Okay. I'm going to try that angle with my wife because we were super fans of Firefly, which I think was the last best space western. So I'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
Anyway. I likened it to for some of our younger listeners to like Breaking Bad meets Star Wars, because it's like dancing on the edge of like what is moral, what is ethical, what's right, and
okay, that's cool. Yeah. That sounds pretty cool. I'll definitely try and make that happen. We'll see. For all I know, this time Monday it'll be like, okay, guys, I caught up. It's all in hand.
Well, episode 6 dropped today, so
all right,
you're only 6 behind.
Yes.
But now that we are the last podcast to talk about The Mandalorian, Jason,
yes.
Jason and I go way back. So let's start with the way current. Tell us about yourself. What's your job function? What do you do at? What is it you say you do here?
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
What I claim to do at Splunk is I'm part of our Splunk community team. And so overall, we're the team that's in charge of a lot of our programs that involve folks external to the company, customers, partners that are getting together at local user groups, or also Splunk Answers, our question and answer website where the community can go for help. We get involved with the community Slack as well. And so we kind of foster those programs and help grow those. And probably one of my personal favorite is the Splunk Trust. And so the Splunk Trust is our MVP program. And, in the past few months, I've really had a lot of time to focus just on the Splunk Trust, especially leading up to our recent, look, Hal has his fez. I have a fez around here somewhere, so I could show as an example.
And I'm a fanboy.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I was lucky enough
guys, it's difficult with the headphones, I got to say. I'm going to abandon that effort.
Yes. The Splunk Trust is it's a great MVP program. And I don't know how much you want me to get into the history right now, but, I'm pretty honored to be able to help facilitate this group and
well, I think that
cool
actually that's exactly where I want to go.
Okay.
It's not the only thing I want to do, however. So I want to step back a little bit and say, what drew you to Splunk initially? Have you always been doing the community work? Kind of where were you coming from?
Sure. So prior to Splunk, and this is where Birch talked about us going way back, is I used to be a Splunk architect at one of our customers, and Birch was actually my sales engineer for
Oh, I didn't know that.
his account. Yeah. So, and we worked together for, I don't know, a year and a half or so virtually, because he was based in Boston and I'm based in Denver, Colorado. And so we had never met. And it was at .conf 16 down in Florida that we got to meet for the first time. And it was great. You know, we kind of saw each other and ran and gave each other a big hug. And it was awesome being able to see each other the first time.
You're really diminishing some of the drama that got us there, because we were supposed to meet a year prior.
Yes.
And what happened, Jason?
So what happened is I decided to learn how to skateboard
before you tell us how that worked out, did you have any reason that you would be emotionally invested in making that conf event?
Yeah, so at .conf 2015, I was actually supposed to speak in a breakout session.
Supposed to? Spoiler alert.
Exactly. And so I decided to learn how to skateboard, and within like 2 weeks, I broke my ankle. So don't try that at home, kids. And I ended up not traveling to .conf. So
did you basically make a transition from a skateboard to that little scooter that you ride on with your knee?
Not quite that bad.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad of a break, but at the time, you know, it was right before .conf, and it was best that I didn't travel. And so I ended up skipping .conf 2015 and didn't get to meet Birch. It was one of the sadder days of my life when I had to make that decision.
No doubt.
Actually, one of the Saturdays of my life is the day that comes before Sunday. Saturday.
Birch, cracking me up.
I'm
not going to say good one. I'm just gonna let it pass.
Yeah.
I always laugh at Birch's jokes, so I tend to encourage him.
So we finally met, and pick us up where you left off in terms of your Splunk tenure.
Yeah. So at the time, you know, I was kind of interested in other opportunities involving Splunk, not necessarily Splunk the corporation, but you know, just
flamethrower.
Exactly. You know,
do we have a flamethrower? Did I miss a memo?
That would
merchandising.
So you know, it's just oftentimes you look at your career and say, where can I go with the skills that I have? And so I was looking elsewhere, and another close Splunk employee friend of mine, Nate McCurvey, told me about a position that was open within marketing as a technical product marketing manager. And so I applied for that and got the job. And when I came in, I ended up not doing that job. They shifted the role to be more around kind of advocacy and essentially community. It wasn't on the community team, but it was interacting with our community. And that eventually steered its way into where I am now on the community team. And it's been a lot of fun. And so that I joined Splunk in the spring of 2017. And I've been here since.
So were you involved in technical communities before coming to Splunk? Was that something that you saw as valuable beforehand?
So yes and no. I mean, I obviously was a heavy user of Splunk Answers, but more as a lurker. I actually didn't participate a lot as far as answering questions. And, you know, part of that was I had my own internal community at the company that I worked with, you know, as an enterprise level account. It was, you know, we had plenty of folks internally that I interfaced with to help them, you know, meet with them regularly, do brown bags, you know, kind of equivalent of maybe like a user group, but internally, you know, mentor folks. And so I didn't really have a lot of time to work external to the company with the Splunk community or other tech communities. So that's the long answer. The short answer is no, I really didn't have much background in technical communities prior to coming into this role.
Because I would have, I don't know, I guess I would have assumed that kind of that passion for technical communities would have led you to where you were, but it sounds like it was more kind of a, you know, this happened and that happened, and you kind of fell into it rather than seeked it out, for example.
Yeah, I tripped and here I am.
You know, broke your ankle.
Exactly. Exactly. And well, you know, it's been great.
I feel like that doesn't do enough justice to your natural propensity. Like, you are successful in this role because of who you are naturally. And if you think about it, this is going to get heavy, but in the technology industry, our affinity for such more like social things that deviate from just the bits and the engineering, there's not a lot of like opportunity for that. And so once you got that opportunity where it was like, I can blend the technical with the community, with that reward I get by having people be successful and happy with this, like, shoot, I didn't know that existed.
Yeah. And that's probably the favorite part of my job is, being able to work with folks, and see where they can go with their career, and seeing them be successful, and helping in any way I can to remove barriers. Historically, even before coming onto the community team, I always loved kind of being in a mentor role and helping teach people, and I've never formally been a teacher at all, but just being able to share knowledge and help somebody be successful in whatever they're trying to do has kind of been a side passion of mine. I mean, me wanting to be in tech and work with computers goes way back from when I was a little kid. But being able to help people be successful has always been important to me as well. And so I think, when Birch, you say about it being kind of a natural fit, I think that plays a big part of it. I mean, I never thought I'd be in this role, yet here I am, and it kind of fits into stuff that I've always enjoyed doing.
It kind of reminds me of like when I was a sales engineer here at Splunk, and it was like, oh wow, this is so cool. I didn't know this job existed. Otherwise, I would have asked for it a long time ago. And like, I mean, the title sales engineer is probably the worst part of the role, because engineers tend to have an aversion to the sales part. But that's where that like ends, and it's what you make of it and how much you invest in your customers, and just being a trusted partner in that way that can make it so rewarding.
Yes. Yep.
So what about kind of same but different question? What about IRC or Usenet or some of these other places where technical community happened before you were involved in this one?
So again, no, I wasn't really heavily involved in IRC. I did join, kind of my first introduction to IRC was with the Splunk IRC community years ago. And I remember spending a lot of time getting access to it because the company I worked for at the time actually blocked IRC.
Yeah,
and
a
so
lot of people did that.
Same.
it was hard getting in. And so I had stuff on my phone. I had a VPN tunnel to kind of get around our own security stuff at work, which then somebody came and knocked on my door and was like, hey, we see you're doing something funny here. So
did they use Splunk to figure that out?
They didn't at the time, but the person who found out, I wouldn't want to cross anyway. He was a very smart security guy. So yes.
You said, let's see if I can name them again here. The areas that you're focusing on. We've got the Splunk Trust. We have the Answers website. We have the user groups rather. Did I miss one?
Those are kind of, the big ones.
The top three.
Is I'd say those are the top three. There's also our community Slack as well.
Oh yes.
And
actually,
so
quite a big deal.
And so, that's very active, kind of like that real-time chat side of community. And it's not just me doing all of these things. We have a whole team. Many of you know Patrick Pablo and Renee Woods and Ivania and Anam. I mean, there's lots of people on the team that are kind of working together to do all these different areas.
Yeah, but like, which one of those people do you like best?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Actually.
Is this being recorded? I don't want to say
and broadcast live.
No.
Yeah.
So yeah, totally. Tell us who your favorite child is.
The one that's annoying me the least. No, I'm just kidding. No,
they're all wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, it's such an amazing team of people that are just passionate about the community, and I think that's one thing, especially in the past year. I mean, the team itself has grown by several folks, and it's great bringing in other people that are passionate about watching others be successful, and I think that's kind of a hallmark of the foundation of our team is that. people are awesome, and we love seeing that. We love highlighting their successes, especially around our product. And it's great.
Speaking of highlighting successes, that's something that I always find interesting. I don't know if you're going to be able to share the numbers publicly, but you let us know. The Splunk Answers website, can you give us any stats about how it does? What
Sure.
you found about it?
Yes.
That'd be awesome.
So this is a good segue into the Splunk Trust and their contribution. And so on Splunk Answers, we kind of group users into two different categories. We have the anonymous user, which is somebody who finds one of the pages on Answers via Google or some other search mechanism, doesn't log in, and we have thousands and tens and thousands of hits from that avenue and anonymous users. Raw Google page
I imagine
is in the millions.
Several orders of magnitude larger than
exactly
the opposite.
Actually, I was to make your point concrete and selfishly brag about my own access to the back end.
You would not be surprised at all about how much time he steals on the mic from our guests. So
yeah.
Really...
Wait, we have guests? I thought this was all for me. I have.
It's the Birch show.
The Birch show.
We have a tag that, and we were looking at the volume of views, and treating that every time someone views this, that's a customer consumed this content. And then it was let's break it out and see how many of them were customers versus employees. And that's when it hit us that it was 98% of the views were by anonymous users.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so that's the one bucket, the anonymous. And there's lots of anonymous views, enough that, we've had other teams within the company kind of look at that and be like, wow, you have a very active website. It's surprising to folks. And
Is
then
it really? That's surprising to wow. That's surprising to me. That is surprising to people because what do people use Google for? It's to answer questions.
Exactly.
What does the Q&A site have? Answers to questions.
Yeah, I mean, my oldest son is in college studying computer science, and I've kind of told him that dirty IT secret of just look it up on Google. That's what everybody does.
Right.
And that's how people get there. And,
all these books back here, they haven't been touched.
Exactly. Yeah, it's faster to look it up on a search engine. And so the other side is the non-anonymous user. So people who have actually logged in. And we see, around 12 to 15,000 per month of active, what we call our active users. These are folks that have actually logged in and done some sort of activity on the site, whether it being, searching for an answer, commenting on a question, asking a question, answering. That's about 12 to 15,000 unique people per month. And of those, and the activity that happens on the site, we see over 20% of it coming from the Splunk Trust. And that's a very significant number. And I'm talking especially when we get down to who's actually answering the questions. And so that's kind of the gravity that the Splunk Trust has around it, the contribution that they give back to the community of helping others, essentially, and helping others be successful with Splunk. And so, the Splunk Trust themselves, they have, the combined karma, and karma is kind of the point system on answers that people earn when they, complete activities.
Imaginary internet points.
Exactly. There's the imaginary internet points, but the Splunk Trust, the current cohort, has over 775,000 combined karma. So it's
what percentile of that is the whole?
I don't know. I don't know what the whole is, but I would say it's
98%.
No, I mean it's probably not quite that much because they're definitely.
I want to be able to make the statement like Bernie Sanders, like the top 2% are causing 98% of all the activity on Answers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I like it.
And the Splunk Trust themselves are, less than 0.5% of those active users.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Way less than 0.5%. It's actually like 0.1%. And so, that's, again, it goes back. It's a very significant contribution that the Splunk Trust makes to our virtual community, mm-hmm. let alone the in-person community. I mean, a lot of our Splunk Trust are user group leaders, We had a very successful program at .conf a couple months ago called Find a Fez, where attendees could find a Splunk Trust person wearing a Fez and ask them a Splunk question, and learn something new from a Fez wearer. And it was great.
We sort of have metrics about that, don't we? I'm thinking Bitcoin, well, cryptocurrency.
Yes. So we had, in order to, help drive the Find a Fez interactions, based on the number of coins that were handed out that we could see, we had over 500 Find a Fez interactions at .conf.
Okay, so just if someone's watching for the first time, there's a couple things that we probably have to circle back to. So at .conf, our user.
Wait. Probably one of those things is none of us are Bernie Sanders.
None of us are Bernie Sanders. 0.1% of us are Bernie Sanders. 98%. At .conf, our annual users conference, we had actually a couple of events that I'd love to hear more about, like the inauguration, the
induction
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Or indoctrination. Depends on how you want. Depends on how you want to frame it.
And then also, like, we had this whole incredible activity for the first time where we were giving out pony Buttercup bucks, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Can you tell us? Yeah.
So what Buttercup bucks were? They are blockchain based cryptocurrency that everybody had their conference app on their mobile device and a digital wallet associated to it. And when they signed in, picked up their badge at the conference, they got a little coin that looked like a poker chip that had a QR code on it. They could scan it with their app, and it would put some virtual currency in their wallet. And doing various tasks throughout the week at the conference, they were able to earn more of these Buttercup bucks. And so one of those tasks.
What could one do with those Buttercup bucks?
So what they could do with it is there's two main things that I'll highlight that they could do. Actually, three. One, they could trade them with each other. And so using the wallets, they could transfer money amongst themselves. Another thing they could do is there's actually a subset of the Splunk store that had special swag that you could only purchase with Buttercup bucks. And then the third thing that was happening is we had three charities, and they people could take their Buttercup bucks and I say in quote donate them to a charity. It actually went into a pool to see which charity somebody liked the most,
mm-hmm.
and whichever charity had the most Buttercup bucks at the end of the week, Splunk made a donation to them. And so that was probably one of the biggest usage of Buttercup bucks, is kind of donating to this contest to see what charity we should
that had a
donate
surprising, or it was surprising to me, because
yes.
it turned into one woman's mission.
Yes, and so that was her name was Caroline, and that was a lot of fun. So
have we hired her yet? Just
no. So Caroline, she was very passionate about stopping human trafficking, and because of that, she was keen on making sure that the Global Emancipation Network, one of the charities, won this contest running with Buttercup bucks. And so we didn't know who she was. We just had kind of a video of her talking about how passionate she was. And kind of through the magic of cryptocurrency, we're able to see her wallet QR code on the video and find out who she was. And we eventually met her, introduced her to the Splunk Trust. And she had been going around soliciting others for their Buttercup bucks to say, hey, I'm donating this to make sure this wins. And she had, found a couple hundred Buttercup bucks so far from folks and making donations to Global Emancipation Network. Well, after she met the Splunk Trust went off and kind of scaled up this effort mm-hmm. of soliciting donations. And that afternoon, they were able to get like 1,200 Buttercup bucks for her and, send them to her wallet. And she was able to make this giant donation, which basically clinched Global Emancipation Network for winning that contest. And, it's one of those feel-good stories that, to me, that came out at .conf of, this is the power of the community. It isn't just about Splunk and answering tech questions and stuff like this. This is people that are building relationships and interacting, helping each other make some really cool change. And Caroline was so passionate about this whole effort. She ended up being highlighted in the closing keynote, and Splunk donated extra money to the Global Emancipation Network because of all this passion that she had. And it was really great.
Yeah, that was pretty neat. I mean, if you do the division that, if everybody did just $5, and I don't know that, but that's 240 people that were touched by, her or indirectly in order to make that change. So that was pretty awesome.
Yes. Yeah. And I think it's, overall, when we talk about community, it comes down to these relationships and realizing that, we're all still humans. We're not computers. We're not just implementers of software, that sort of thing. We have our own motivations and our own passions. And when we come together and kind of help each other out and foster, what we care about and respect each other, some cool things can happen. It's pretty neat.
It always tickles me the difference between we got the engineering and the bits and what can you do with Splunk the product, and okay, let's do this Bitcoin thing. I don't think anyone anticipated there would be someone who steps up and puts the human emotion into this program that becomes something that we're talking about now. Mm-hmm. It could have just been a really cool experiment on its own, and we would have admired that. But just the confluence of empowering people with technology, it's what makes things appear magical. Mm-hmm. The more you know.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
There was another thing that they could do with the Buttercup bucks.
What was that?
They could take the coins after they scanned them and flip them into the
was that fountain.
There was a fake fountain with a Buttercup statue in the middle in the lobby area, and no one was putting their coins in there. But the comp team told me wait, we put that there thinking people a wishing well. People would put their coins in it, and they're like, I don't get it. No one wants to. I'm like, have you seen the coins? They're really cool. I don't want to get rid of it.
Yeah.
So I have 35 left. Can I, what do you give me for it?
What I can do is I can give you Caroline's QR code, and you can send it to her wallet, because
there we go.
It's interesting. Even though everything was all said and done and Global Emancipation Network had already won, at the end of the conference on Thursday, I ran into Caroline again, and people were still swarming her, giving her Buttercup bucks, even though it technically didn't matter at that point. But her wallet was up over 10,000 BCB.
Neat.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So, people were sharing the QR code of her wallet on Slack, and so anybody could donate to it, even if they, didn't run into her in person, but, they saw her on Slack or, whatever, they could do it that way. So it's pretty neat.
That's awesome.
Does anything happen if Hal gives her his wallet?
No,
at this point?
I mean, nothing other than it's kind of like a digital marker of this thing is still going on, this passion and drive to want to help somebody else, or at least acknowledge that, thank you for having that passion and helping, Global Emancipation Network win.
How you should do it. If only to become one anomalous blip on the time chart that they eventually run.
I am in. So let's switch gears a little bit, because I probably will. We should have Nate on the show for sure to talk about what all he's been up to and what led up to kind of the cryptocurrency angle at the conference.
And then Patrick, hopefully someday we'll have on talk more about the community stuff that he's responsible for as well.
So I feel like we could go back to Splunk Trust and kind of close that off as far as what the program is,
sure,
what the accomplishments have been. I know we're kind of end of the year here, so you maybe have some metrics on hand.
Yeah. So a bit of history of the Splunk Trust. It was originally created by prior director of community, Rachel Perkins. And so she was, very involved with the community, especially on IRC and answers. and, noticed that there were a regular group of folks that were contributing. And eventually what came about was at .conf of 2015 was the first kind of Splunk Trust cohort that was inducted. And there were 22 people inducted that year.
Were there fezzes before that?
There were fezzes before that. And so from what I've gathered from the history, and some of this is coming from splunkgallery.com, which is kind of a Splunk history site that
had Charlie on previous episode.
Yeah. So if you want to learn more about that and Charlie, a Splunk Trust member that became an employee, check out our feed, subscribe below, click here.
Yeah. Click somewhere here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, so splunkgallery.com has a lot of this history. But from what I found, at .conf of 2014, the fezzes were first being handed out, and Charlie and Kyle Smith were kind of involved in some of that, along with Rachel. And, there's kind of this prehistory that has fezzes and capes and, a lot of this kind of hero, branding around who the people are that eventually became the Splunk Trust. Those
I think it was
people.
Half of it was that we were weird people, and we wanted to find the other weird people that were outside of the company, because we could socialize together awkwardly better than we could socialize with other humans.
Awkwardly.
So, yeah.
Awkwardly.
I mean, it's going to be awkward, but it'll be slightly less awkward if all the awkward ones are in the same room together.
And what better way to do it than to wear something awkward
and call attention to yourself?
Yeah. Well, and that was around the time that we were really heavy into the premise of calling all of the heroes ninjas. So it was like, oh, are you a Splunk ninja? Like, you've got a cape, and I think that was before the trust was.
Yeah, that was definitely way before.
Okay,
because that was a Michael Wildeism.
Ism.
Yeah,
but Michael Wilde, former co-host of the Splunk Talk podcast.
Yeah.
But now we do not talk about Michael Wilde. He's verboten.
Yeah.
No. Actually, I love Michael Wilde. He's a great guy.
Yeah. So we've grown significantly since that first 22 member cohort to this
year.
What are we
at now?
We're at 66 this year. So we've tripled the size from 22 to 66 people this year. And I think over time we've definitely grown our global presence in Splunk Trust membership. I think that's a great thing that's happened over the past several years. And so right now we have 66 members from 12 different countries. And, it's really great to see that. And,
So what percentage of people in the trust are in the trust for what reason? So I know answers contributions, there's user group contributions. So kind of break that down.
Sure. And this gets into a bit about the selection process of the Splunk Trust. And so historically, what happens is it used to be where the Splunk Trust nomination process was open year round. There's kind of a form you could go and either self-nominate or you could nominate somebody else. And because it was open year round, we ran into some issues with people didn't even know they were nominated. And then we felt bad saying, sorry, we didn't select you this year. And they're like, what? I didn't even know I was, yeah, exactly. What is this Splunk Trust you talk about? And so we actually kind of closed the year-round nominations, and now we have kind of the Splunk Trust nomination season. And that happens in June. And so we open up the nomination application process, and whenever somebody's nominated, we reach out to them and say, hey, please apply. And people can apply directly as well, but this way we make sure everybody knows that they're in the process.
So and what do we call the meeting where we go over the submissions?
Yes. So once we get all these applications, we have a special meeting called Hammer Fight. And so once the submissions close,
not
that kind of hammer.
But when you have hammer time, then that means you're having a hammer fight. Anyway, keep going.
I guess.
So we have a group of internal employees that it isn't just the Splunk community team, but there is this kind of extended community guild in a way. And it's a lot of Splunk employees that are regularly involved in the community. And so they meet in this Hammer Fight meeting, and they take all of the applications. And the applications kind of list like, why do you feel you should be in the Splunk Trust? And, all of the nominations that came in that kind of support, whatever their kind of resume is for being in the Splunk Trust. And the folks during Hammerify kind of say, all right, this person should be in, they've done a great contribution on answers, or they run a very successful user group, or,
Nunchuck
perhaps
skills.
Exactly. Nunchuck skills.
So is there a challenge in making something that is objective?
Yeah. We don't have a set criteria, and that's kind of been something that we've mulled around internally. Is one, we, as the company grows and our community grows, it's good that the Splunk Trust grows. And we don't necessarily want to, sprint to get to some place that's the size of, say, the Microsoft MVP program.
Mm-hmm.
That program's huge. And, one of the things we really like about the size of the Splunk Trust right now is it's small enough that it's still feasible for people to form great relationships amongst the Splunk Trust. And so we don't want to kind of lose that. But there is a need to grow things. And so we've always talked about, like, how do we grow it? Do we set a particular number that we want to shoot for? And we've kind of said no to that. We want
Mm-hmm.
people to get in on their own merits. It's not like we say, all right, we have 66 slots this year, we have to fill them.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of
more organic.
Yeah, it's much more organic. I mean, folks, overall, it's not like I'm the one that selects anybody. I actually try and pull myself away from the process and let everybody else in kind of this broader community guild, kind of say their 2 cents and who should come in and who should not. And it grows organically, and through there it's,
So there's still a burning question that we have not addressed, which
Mm-hmm.
is why the name of the meeting?
The hammer fight?
Yeah.
Pull out the hammers. It's hardcore business,
fight,
man.
like I'm gonna fight to make sure Hal gets in, and I'm gonna bring my hammers.
I'm not sure where Hammer Fight came from.
It was Rachel's name, but I don't remember why either.
Yeah.
I do remember being in it when she said the word hammer fight, but I don't remember why. Oh, well. Maybe
That's
Russ,
why you bring
Russ
a
might
Hal
know.
to a
We'll have to
hammer
ask
fight.
Russ or Chris. We'll have to ask them.
Yes.
So, end of the day, what would you say are some of your favorite contributions that the Splunk Trust has made to the Splunk community?
Well, I highlighted their contributions on answers, which I think is phenomenal.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Answers specifically, and maybe we should have Patrick on it so he can go into kind of the thing that he's kind of upfront about, and that's his big thing. But how much does Splunk Answers deflect as far as like support cases? Do you have anything offhand about that?
I know it's a lot. I don't know off the top of my head, and so I don't want to guess and maybe steal some of Patrick's thunder in the future. But
we will prepare him.
Exactly. Yeah. It's definitely a significant amount. I mean,
I was blown away when I heard a statistic like that, but this was like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
From Rachel at the time. I just know that it was significant. I was like, wow, really?
Mm-hmm.
So
that's pretty cool.
I started this campaign back when I was working with Jason as my customer, where I was really trying to encourage all my customers, like, go use Answers. Don't wait for me to get back to you. Don't email me and wait for me to get back to you, because I'm going to give you one perspective, and it's going to take a while because I might be traveling. So use Answers instead, and I'm already following you, so I'll get to it as well. And to make that argument, I was able to get my hands on some data and calculated that, let's see if I remember this correctly, the time, the 50th percentile time was 2 hours. So half the questions got an answer within 2 hours.
Wow.
And then 95th percentile, so like essentially what's the max, the near max that you would effectively expect on Answers, was a day. So I was like, wow, yeah, that's faster than me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is very quick. to get help on answers. And it also goes back to what is Splunk support for? When you open a ticket with Splunk support, it really should be for a problem, like a break fix type situation. If it's like, I haven't read the docs, you shouldn't open a ticket. Start with docs. Our docs are amazing. And if, the docs don't quite answer your question, you can always leave a note at the bottom of each docs page and say, hey, this part is unclear. And the docs team will address that. And then you can jump over to answers and maybe look for something that's particular to your business use case that you're trying to do. And so that sort of deflection of cases that aren't around break fixes and are just, the Q&A, clarifications, the Q&A interaction, it's really important to have that community. And,
to cement that connection, Chris Gales got his honorary inclusion at this past induction ceremony, and he is the director of our entire docs for Splunk. And I mean, if you want to see a role model, follow him on.
Yeah. I say this all the time, and I think everyone on here would say the same thing, but we've got a couple people in the live chat right now who are like, docs are amazing. Shout out to Chris's team.
Yeah.
Totally agreed.
Yep. And that's, you kind of mentioned something, Birch, about the honorary Splunk
I mention a lot of things.
You do. Some of it's important, like the honorary Splunk Trust. Just a little bit.
Yeah, tell us about the honorary, and I want to hear about the induction.
Sure. So the honorary Splunk Trust, it's always been one of those things where it's kind of the reverse of Splunk Trust. It's Splunk employees who have done great community things as well. And we've never really solidified exactly how they're selected or what it means. We maybe came a bit closer this year by kind of turning it over to the Splunk Trust and say, you select them this year. And we actually, gave them a limit of 3, select 3 people, and they had to make some hard decisions. And, and Chris Gales was one of them. Patrick, Pablo of Splunk Answers was another. And then Russ Uman, who is known as Firebus on Slack, and he was a third. And, it's really great seeing the community kind of look around and say, who's really helped us internally at Splunk to, get done what we need to get done, either, helping us build the relationships with others within the company, or, who's regularly involved with us in our community programs, whether it's user groups or on Slack. It's a really great side of the program that, kind of gives that warm fuzzy to the internal employees as well. So it's very nice.
Yeah. 3 incredible candidates. All 3, I hope we eventually have, not candidates, but members. And I hope we eventually have all 3 on as guests as well. So tell us about the ceremony. Is this like it's held in the Radisson in the bathroom and no one knows about it, or what?
Yeah. So in past years, at the first evening of .conf, usually the
Monday. I hope Radisson's not a customer of ours.
Their bathrooms are really nice. I've heard
they're
really
great
nice.
bathrooms. That's why I said
they are. Yeah. They're clean.
Yeah.
So the Monday evening of our .conf conference is usually a welcome soiree for people that are flying in during the day. It's kind of the kickoff of the conference, and within our Source Equals Pavilion vendor area, we would have like a theater that the Splunk Trust induction ceremony would occur at, in conjunction with another award program we have called the Revolution Awards. And this past year, what we ended up doing is we moved it into a private room. And so it was essentially one of the large breakout rooms that, breakout session would be in later in the week. But we had our own food and beverage in there. And, we wanted to make it more kind of like an Oscars style ceremony, with the Revolution Awards and Splunk Trust. And our CEO, Doug Merritt, was there. And he helped present it along with John Sabino. So our Chief Customer Success Officer, I think is his official title. They were there to help with the award ceremony. And it's always great when, the executives can come down and take time with the community. I know the community really looks up to them and are extremely thankful that they were there for that. But we had around 250 people in attendance, and just a great overall ceremony where we inducted the cohort this year and got a great group picture. And
so do people that are already in the trust get re-inducted in that ceremony?
Yes. So each year people
each
do
year they
reapply.
have to re-earn. Yeah.
It's a term license, not a perpetual license.
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And so each year people are reselected and, come up on stage and get re-indoctrinated into the Splunk Trust.
And what is the company that we buy the fezzes from so I can go buy stock?
We actually go through our swag vendor that everybody uses. So,
oh, cool.
Yeah, they help us get those all set up and embroidered and gussied up with our logo on it. And
wow.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
I was gonna say I always find it funny because one of the things on the Splunk Gallery is there's a short entry right now on fezzes, but talking with Charlie Huggard knows a lot of the history about the fezzes themselves and has seen a lot of the different iterations over time. And I had a fun conversation with him where he was talking about how they've evolved over time. And this year they had, this type of embroidery on it. And I kind of looked at Charlie. I was like, there's no rhyme or reason to this. Like, we've kind of been flying by the seat of our pants, making it up as we go along. So, it's kind of a history that wrote itself, and it's a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun. So, I'm glad that you're paying attention to it, that you think it's important, that the company thinks it's important, that we're, kind of investing in some of these different community efforts. As some know, like I was a Microsoft MVP for a long time, and I saw value in being in it, and Microsoft saw value in me being there. It was a great kind of, symbiotic relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just, proud to be associated and have friends among the Splunk Trust, because they're a great bunch of people.
Yes. Yep. And that, one of the things when kind of looking up some statistics on this, when preparing for this, I came across the Microsoft MVP Global Summit. Mm-hmm. And they actually have a regular summit that people attend. And we had our first Splunk Trust Summit in 2018, and we're looking to plan the next one. And, kind of the same thing at a much smaller scale, but, it's another opportunity to bring everybody together so they can continue to build those in-person relationships, but also, kind of get that inside peek at where the product's going, work with our, product development teams as far as feedback and getting involved with beta testing. And so it's kind of one of the perks of being in the Splunk Trust is you get a bit more of this inside look at things and, what's happening with the product, what the future is going to be, and being able to give input as far as what you think something should look like or how it should work or operate.
Well, I think there's one thing that we could say about the trustees is they have opinions. They'd like to share them.
Exactly. And it's good. And they have good opinions. It's not just a lip service type opinions. I mean, sometimes, exactly. I mean, they're very constructive feedback. And I always love getting that feedback from them and funneling it to the right people and, making sure that, like, look, these are people that have based their careers around our product essentially, and they're using it every day. They're at the keyboards implementing it. These are the successes they're having and the challenges that they're having. And, we should listen to their voice because they've seen a lot with our product.
Any upcoming, like anything exciting upcoming that we should stay tuned for regarding the realm of trust or community? This is not like I know something and I'm like queuing you up to say something. Like, just,
it often is, to be fair.
It often is, but like we're talking a lot about like history, and so I always like to bookend it with like, okay, well, what's next?
Yeah,
sure. I think this next year, I don't have any concrete answers to exactly what's happening next.
Oh, you can go to answers.splunk.com for that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So probably what I'd say is this past year, we spent a lot of time growing the Splunk community team. and adding members
Ooh.
and getting the right people in the right spot to help grow the various programs we have between Answers, Trust, and User Group, for example. And now that we've really filled out our team and have the right folks there, now it's time to kind of move forward and what can we do to grow our programs and enhance our programs and improve them from what they have been. And so in this upcoming year, look for a lot of great changes and growth, not necessarily growth in the sense of numbers, but growth in capabilities and, offerings, essentially, like how the community can function and the capabilities that they have both virtually and in person events. So
how vague but exciting
it is.
Did we get a chance did we I don't know if we've done it in a prior episode, but what's the deal with user groups? Is that like a thing that I go to and a salesperson just berates me the whole time?
Only
yes,
you.
That's very
pretty much wherever you go, Birch, we berate you.
Yeah, that's right.
So user groups are a great local in-person event, and Renee Wood's on the team. She's in charge of user groups. And so one of the awesome things about that is we really push the user groups to not be a sales marketing vehicle. And so we want to support them to kind of be for the users, by the users. Many of these user groups are ran by Splunk Trust members. And overall, what we want to see is,
and aspiring Splunk Trust.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's where my mind was going to. It's a great way to earn your way into the trust is literally bringing other customers together without the pressure of people from Splunk there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, okay, let's get all the kids together and the kids can play.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a play date for Splunk nerds.
Yeah.
And so, sometimes the content is very serious. Like, after.conf, several user group leaders did a post.conf, what are the greatest hits type events, just to highlight, some of the good breakout sessions. But there's also fun things as well. One of the local sales engineers here in Denver, Chris Croco, hopefully I pronounced his last name correctly. He ran a recent user group several months ago, but he essentially took video game data on a Raspberry Pi. Like, let's use Splunk metrics to look at one aspect of video games running on a Raspberry Pi. Another aspect looking at log files of the software that's running, and kind of through the fun of just playing games, showing how you can look at metrics and log data side by side. And so, being able to frame those sorts of, real use cases of Splunk real use cases of Splunk, but under the guise of fun. I always like those types of demos of the product.
Speaking of fun, we got a great question. Hal very cleverly used the YouTube chat to see if there's any questions, and one that I can't believe I didn't think of. Anthony Renke wants to know, how do you wash the pony pants? And so the predicate for that is, are you wearing the pony pants? And if not, can you explain what the pony pants are?
Sure. So the pony pants are, I took a pair of black pants and sewed a bunch of our little buttercup ponies that you can get on our swag shop. And
like
so
the stuffed like the
little stuffed animal ponies, and so they're going down the sides of the legs. My original inspiration was
to clarify for the visual, like not patches, which would be appropriate and easy to wear, but actual little dolls all over your pants. Yeah.
And my inspiration for this was actually Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers, how he had those stuffed animal pants back in the 80s, early 90s.
I just remember the sock.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was yeah.
And so it was funny because I just washed the pony pants a couple weeks ago, and I've been dreading it because I'm like, I have all these ponies sewn on. I don't want them to get caught in the washer and torn off, and how am I going to wash these? And so I washed them by themselves, and they came out fine. So good news. The pony pants are all clean for the next time I wear them.
And no ponies were harmed in the washing of these pants.
Exactly.
Very cool. Hal, did I jump and you were going to ask something before, or was
Yeah, I
it
was
that?
just gonna riff off of the whole video game thing
Oh
and
yeah.
fun in general with Splunk. One of my projects in the past, helping with .conf is one of the more fun things to do. As part of my job, I've done it several times, and I know that both of you have as well. Um, but one year I ran the gamer lounge, and the whole concept was to bring game data into Splunk, and then people can analyze it, or they can just sit there and play games and produce the data and watch that happen live. And so there's really cool things that happen come out of that. But another couple of areas that I've been kind of like my hobby kind of shifted is smart home and barbecue.
Mm.
Oh,
So
okay.
there's some confluences there of, and a lot of people share this interest of, hey, I've got these other hobbies that I do. How can I get that data into Splunk? So I'm seeing a lot of that. It's from the smart home side to bringing in sensor data. Barbecue, it's like, hey, let's put these temperature sensor readings in. There's a lot of cool things that people do totally outside the box, outside of the data center, but get you thinking about cool ways you can
Mm-hmm.
cool things you can do in Splunk, where the example data set happens to be not a router, right?
Yep. And there's a lot of parallels with the real world, so to speak. When you think of business data, there's kind of rubber stamps of, oh well, this is just like HTTP access data. This could be like router data, and
Right.
being able to explain those with those examples is always fun, especially for people who are very new to the product and aren't exactly sure where it fits in, or maybe see Splunk as just solving a single use case, not realizing that there's dozens of use cases that the product can be used for, especially as you get more sources in. And so, showing the bringing of all these disparate data sources in and what you can do with it is a lot of fun.
Definitely agreed. So, any calls to action, last things that you want to kind of point people at, Jason?
So I would say that, we have an amazing Splunk Trust cohort. They do amazing things for our community, both virtually and in person. And a lot of times people get into the Splunk Trust and they kind of look left and right and be like, why am I here? Because somebody next to them maybe knows way more about networking. And then, the person on the other side maybe knows way more about application performance monitoring. But everybody is in the Splunk Trust for a reason, and they're selected because of their dedication to the Splunk community, whether that's on answers, as a user group leader, internally within your own company or at your university. Whatever it is, you've contributed to the Splunk community in some significant way. It's not how much you know, it's more about who you are and how you've interacted with the community and helped others be successful. And so
to ground that, I remember at the summit in 2018, one of the people there was like, I don't know why I'm here. I'm just really good with searching. And it's like, well, it's that, and it's you. Like, you are you, and you're willing to help.
And if they were really good at searching but didn't tell anybody about it, that they wouldn't be there. But you tell people about it, you share what you do, you help other people do it, you write a blog post, answers, user group,
and
it's those activities in aggregate.
They felt humbled because they were like, well, I don't know all about the comp files and everything in the background. And it's like, well, yeah, you don't, these aren't the people that like decompile the code.
Yeah, it's like
you don't have to be the ultimate expert in everything. You just have to be passionate about it and how you share that with other people.
Exactly. And it's a team. It's a team of people who have different skills that come together that are greater than the sum of their parts. And the biggest advice that I'd give to anybody who wants to become a Splunk Trust member is be yourself, but not in a vacuum. Become involved in the community with Splunk, help others. It's okay to toot your own horn. Don't feel bad if you have to apply yourself to the Splunk Trust because, everybody's busy. Sometimes people don't get nominated. There's nothing wrong with that. We don't look bad upon whether or not you have nominations or applied yourself. We want to see people helping each other be successful, and that's essentially how you become a Splunk Trust member.
So we do need to talk about Slack, which we've hardly touched on.
Oh,
and
bunch of slackers.
What? Yeah, we are a bunch of slackers. It's been a little bit of a phenomena, I think. I mean, I loved IRC back in the day.
Phenomena.
I was wondering, I didn't get it at first. Okay. You can keep going if you want. I loved IRC back in the day, but it wasn't great for me, the user experience. And then Slack came on and fixed that. And then we had 100 people, and then we had 1,000 people, and I could check probably real quick. North of 5,000 people in the Splunk user groups community chat. Of course, I've kind of stolen all your thunder here, but anyway, Jason, tell us about what's going on over there.
Yeah, so with Slack, I mean, we have it's pretty active. I mean, we have around 1,500 to 1,800 active users per month. It's definitely kind of the real-time chat side of things. And so people are helping each other, talk through, whatever situations that we're having in that real-time fashion versus Splunk Answers, where it's more of a Q&A discussion type thing. And so, it's definitely a great part of our community that people can join as well.
So how do we send people to Slack so that we know how to reach them?
The easiest way to sign up is if you go to our own URL shortener. If you go to splk.it/Slack, and that'll actually take you to a form that you can fill out. And within about 15, 20 minutes of filling out that form, there's an automated process that happens behind the scenes that will kick out an invite to you to sign up for the Slack, the Splunk community Slack as well. And then you can get in there, and there's lots of different channels broken out by topics, whether you're there for enterprise security or help with SPL, or if you have a new user type question. So lots of Splunk Trust there as well, helping people out.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Jason. I mean, I've learned a lot, and I'm glad that you're kind of here, building this technical community, and thanks for spending some time with us.
Yeah. Thank you very much for having me on.
And then we would roll, that the fade out music, right, Birch? Do we have?
Yeah, Birch? It goes like this. Do 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 do. Phenomenon. Do 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 do.
Phenomenon.
Hey.
That was awesome.
Well, thank you, Jason. Was it?
Yes. Yes.
Another great episode, another great guest. Thank you all who have been in the Splunk Talk live recording chat.
Thanks, chat room, for participating with us. It makes it more exciting, don't you think?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, right. That's it for the episode. Talk to you later, Jason.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right.
Happy Splunking.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.